Thank you, Todd Starnes. Even the most disturbing topics you can get a little smile out of it, just of the absurdity and how horrible it all is. But big gulps, no. Abortions, yes. What? Okay. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. AFR Talk. Great to be with you. Happy Monday. Don't have a case of them. Hans von Spakovsky, senior legal analyst at the Heritage Foundation, the co-author of the soon-to-be best-selling Who's Counting? It might be best-selling already, remarking on the voter ID and the state of voting in this country. Hans, great to be back with you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Crane, how are you on this Monday?
I am doing all right. It's really where to begin. I'm going to begin with last week's answer to a question from the Univision host to President Obama about Fast and Furious. And here is the president saying that, in essence, he has full security or full faith in Eric Holder after the report. Here is the president. Roll it.
Well, first of all, I think it's important for us to understand that the Fast and Furious program was a field-initiated program begun under the previous administration. When Eric Holder found out about it, he discontinued it. We assigned a inspector general to do a thorough report that was just issued, confirming that, in fact, Eric Holder did not know about this, that he took prompt action, and the people who did initiate this were held accountable. Eric Holder has my complete confidence because he has shown himself to be willing to hold accountable those who took these actions and is passionate about making sure that we're preventing guns from getting into the wrong hands.
But you have nothing to hide then. Why are you not releasing papers to the
Well, actually, the truth is we've released thousands of papers.
But not all of them.
We've released almost all of them. The ones that we don't release typically relate to internal communications that were not related to the actual Fast and Furious operation.
Hans, is the president telling the truth?
There were so many lies in what he said, it would take us an hour just to catalog them all. But look, let's talk about the most important one. He said he's got full faith in Attorney General Eric Holder because Holder has held the people responsible for this to account. Well, that is completely untrue. You know, the IG report criticized 14 different individuals, folks working for the ATF, people working for the Department of Justice. One of them has resigned. One of them has retired. The rest, there's been no disciplinary action taken against any of them.
So people have not been held to account. Also, we talked about this, the story or the account that leaves many questions, and actually was criticized within the report, as I understand, that Holder didn't know. He was emailed about something, but it didn't contain the follow-up information regarding how Brian Terry died and the programs that were existing at the time. My question to you is, when we hear a report, in essence, kind of put information out that draws speculation on Eric Holder's candor, are we to assume that the Inspector General didn't believe Eric Holder?
Well, the Inspector General said that Holder didn't know about this, and it also says that many of the senior officials, including people who reported directly to him, didn't inform him about this. If we assume that's true, that leads to a level of incompetence of his judgment and leadership because he doesn't know about a major operation like this. He employs people who don't inform him about a major operation like this. I mean, that in itself is bad. The other thing about it, Crane, is that the wiretap applications for Operation Fast and Furious, the supporting documentation made it very clear that these weapons were ending up in Mexico. And yet Holder actually testified. He said, well, there was nothing in those applications that contained that kind of information. I mean, that is just completely wrong.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to give one sentence from the report alluding to the credibility of Eric Holder. We found it troubling that a case of this magnitude and that affected Mexico so significantly was not directly briefed to the Attorney General. We would usually expect such information to come to the Attorney General through the Office of the Deputy Attorney General. And so the idea is, okay, I guess he can skirt out of it, and we may never truly know what he knew and when he knew it. But what should happen from here, Hans?
Well, look, he ought to resign. That's not going to happen because the president thinks he's doing a good job. The House of Representatives should continue with its civil lawsuit to get the executive privilege claim overruled by a court and get those documents produced. I mean, the other thing the president said that, well, we've produced almost all the documents. I mean, again, that is a flat-out lie. They've produced about 8% of the documents that have been requested by the House of Representatives. That's not mostly or all of the documents. Again, that's just completely not true.
So shifting gears just slightly here to voter ID. You know, people would say, shifting gears, Crane, he's saying that the Attorney General's lying. Yeah, I know. Or the president's lying about the Attorney General and to knowingly mislead. Well, we've had a campaign lie directly to our face when it came to knowledge, even when they were on tape, when it came to knowledge of a particular ad campaign run by the super PAC. So as I sit here, it's not to say Obama lies in everything he says, but we're having some credibility issues in the age of recordings and YouTube that, wow, you got some contradictions there that are hard to get away from. And so we leave it up there. Okay, the president, according to Hans von Spakovsky, worked at the DOJ during the Bush administration, senior legal analyst at the Heritage Foundation, poured over the issue at hand, and he's saying, wait a second, that's just simply not true. Now, what should happen from there? Well, Univision and others, with time, I guess the Fourth Estate needs to hold the president to account and ask follow-ups. I only wish Hans von Spakovsky was there. That said, let's move to South Carolina voter ID. What's the latest in the case in South Carolina concerning South Carolina and voter ID, Hans?
Well, the latest is that today they had oral arguments before the 3 judges in Washington, D.C., in the federal court here, who have that case before them. They had a trial where they produced the evidence. Today, the lawyers from both sides made arguments to the judges, and so now, a little bit more than a month from the election, we are going to wait for a decision from the 3 judges as to whether or not that voter ID law will be in place for the November election.
What would the ruling be? How would the ruling be justified not to have it in place? Would it be just too close to the election for as Al Sharpton says, changing the game in the middle of it?
Well, that is a possibility. If the 3 judges uphold the law as being okay, not being discriminatory under the Voting Rights Act, because that's the claim made by the government, they might still restrain it from being enforced for this election because they might think it's too close to the election for the state to properly implement it. On the other hand, given the fact that we know that 99% of the registered voters in the state of South Carolina already have a photo ID, I actually think that it would be pretty easy for the state to implement this and get IDs to the very small number of people who don't already have one.
Speaking of voting, early voting beginning today in many states. What does this mean, and why are we seeing such an increase in the amount of folks that will be voting early?
Early voting is this recent phenomenon. It really started about 10 years ago, states allowing it. It means that now in many, many states, instead of having an election day, we have an election month. And I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, it's very convenient for voters, but it means that people are voting. Look, they're starting to vote now. We haven't even had the first debate. The different periods that you can vote over the next month mean that people are voting with different bases of information about the candidates, and there's no telling what more may come out, in the next month before the election. But we probably will have 25-30% of Americans vote early and not on election day.
Will the military's votes be counted this year, Hans?
I certainly hope so. The omens for that at the moment don't look good because of the fact that the number of requests for absentee ballots from overseas military folks appears in many states to be way down. And I hope that's not an indication that we're going to have very low turnout from military voters, but I'm afraid that may be the case.
Our guest, Hans von Spakovsky, co-author of soon-to-be bestseller, Who's Counting, senior legal analyst at the Heritage Foundation. Hans, closing out, Department of Justice, Media Matters, a left-wing Soros-supported organization, and the White House. What's going on here? Are we seeing coordination between Media Matters and the White House and the Department of Justice?
We are. The Daily Caller, through Freedom of Information Act, got copies of emails going between the Public Affairs Office at Justice and Media Matters, and Justice was apparently using Media Matters as their outside public relations firm, telling them they should do stories, telling them they should do attack pieces on various critics of the organization, including me, by the way.
Oh, wow. Well, Hans, you got to feel honored. It's like the Journalese scandal back in 2008.
It is, but look, taxpayer money and taxpayer resources should not be used for this kind of thing. That is unethical.
No. Yeah, and it's much bigger because of that. Hans, wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we do not, but I'll be harassing you, as always, for more. Who's Counting, the name of the book. Check it out. Hans von Spakovsky, thank you, buddy. Great to be with you. Take care. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. AFR Talk.